So my name's Derek Rust, and this is Dave, and we both run Alpha in our respective churches, and we just want to share with you some thoughts about what's helped us get people who are seeking God onto our courses. Dave, what about you? What's been the most successful thing, do you think, in terms of crossing that line of a lot of church people coming through the course and actually getting people from outside who tend to avoid God in the church on the course?
Well, I think the first thing to do is to recognize that there's a sliding scale between churched and unchurched. Let's say that your typical hard-nosed anti-Christian pagan was a 1, and your church council member who's tithing and goes on mission trips is a 10.
Yeah.
There's a whole sliding scale there, and I don't think there's a one or the other. There's sort of a lot of gray, and I think it's pretty nuanced. Yeah. But to try to get lower numbers is the key. You want to look for people with 1 through 5 would be great.
Right.
And 6 through 10 is okay, but you really want to be targeting the 1 through 5 folks. And also to understand that to be unchurched in different parts of the country might mean different things.
Right.
For instance, in the upper Midwest, unchurched might mean raised Catholic, raised Lutheran, don't go to church. Or in the deep South, it might mean gave my life to Jesus when I was 14 and never went back to church. Whereas on the coast, it might mean I've never been to church in my life.
Right.
And so, depending on where you are, there's more or less of those people with lower numbers.
Right.
But I really think it's a great idea to think, well, if we're reaching 7s, how can we reach 6s? If we're reaching 6s, how can we reach 5s? If we're reaching 5s, how can we reach 4s? If we're reaching, all the way down.
Yeah.
Ideally, to have an alpha class of all 1s would be magnificent.
Yeah.
But in the world we live in, it's more complex than that. So what are some of the things you've done?
Well, we've probably, in the last few years, we've seen a steady increase in the number of unchurched people coming on the course, and I think there are 3 things that I think we're doing better than we've done before. One is, I think as a congregation we're more intentionally praying for those people who are on the outside looking in, and I think a lot more people are seeing the results of answers to prayer and people coming on the course. The other thing we're doing is we do some evangelism training alongside the Alpha course. Alpha is sort of like the invitational tool, but when we've taken some time to equip people, that sort of whole Ephesians 4 thing, equipping the saints for the work of ministry, that people are more intentional now about building relationships with people who are on the outside of the church and making room in their lives to do that as well. Whereas before, I think we've tended to live a bit in this sort of Christian ghetto, and we have no time for people outside the church. So I think we're getting better at that. And
the time is the key, and I think that has to be modeled from the front. Most of you listening to this tape are probably familiar with Bill Hybels, and Bill Hybels at Willow Creek is probably the best in the country at modeling his sailboat group. And he's always talking from the front about the group of people that he goes sailing with on Lake Michigan, and how he is continually working in their lives and investing in them and spending time with them. And I think it's very important to do that from the front. I like to talk in every message about the people I serve with and the people I'm doing things with, to model that to become a Christian doesn't mean to get rid of all of your social contacts and to live in a monastery. It means to continue to invest in and work in those relationships, especially in your neighborhood, at your workplace, your extended family, those people that you see at Thanksgiving, whether you like it or not, the people that are part of your life, the people that, there's a number of different places, the people who do sports with your kids, their parents, the people that you have casual contact with, and to model that from the front gets people thinking, especially if you do it every week, at least somewhere. If you listened to me this weekend, you heard me talking about some of the people I surf with, and I want to continue to do that. And I also talk about my neighbors. We have 30 neighbors on our block. We have 30 houses on our block. We're the only ones who go to church. And we socialize intensively with people on our block. And everybody in our church knows that. And so that not only is an example to them, it gives them permission to do things outside of the church, because I think sometimes churches give people the sort of unconscious message, subconscious message, that if they spent more time at the church they'd be better Christians.
Yeah.
And if they just would never be at their neighborhoods and never do anything else, if they just did one more volunteer thing for the church, that if they just came on Thursday night as well as Wednesday and Tuesday, that somehow they would really be closer to Jesus.
Yeah.
And we want people to be in a Christian fellowship group, definitely, because Christian fellowship is one of the sweetest things that people can have in life, but we want them to also have enough time to do other things. And I think our church schedules need to sometimes lighten up so that we're not using up every moment of their day, or making having a sermon where we're saying you have to make friends with your neighborhood, but also saying in the announcement we're desperate for Sunday school teachers and you need to make sure you sign up, because if you don't sign up we can't have Sunday school. So you're sending dual messages there, that we need more of your time and yet you need to spend more of your time with people. So I think modeling is a real key too.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredibly important. I remember a friend of ours called Jeff Kirby, who's down at runs Alpha at a large church down in Kansas City. He always used to say that, you know, to ask other people to do what you're not willing to do yourself is sort of spiritual malpractice. And that really hit home to me, and it made me think, my goodness, am I building a relationship with people outside the church? Am I thinking about who I'm inviting on the next Alpha course? And we've been really encouraging our Alpha leaders to do that as well, saying, you know, please think about who you're inviting. Don't just come and be an Alpha helper or leader, but
you can't just do that the week beforehand. You have to give them 6 months so that they can align their lifestyle, so that they can spend enough time with people, so that they can actually gain the trust of people to the point where they can ask them. Because many Christians don't have any real social contacts outside the church, especially if they've been Christians for a long time.
And I mean, Barner, if he's correct when he says that, you know, if you invite 4 people, you know, to church or an evangelistic event, one of them will say yes. That presupposes that there's some relational credit in the bank to make that invite. I'll tell you another thing that we did this summer as well, is we handed out Alpha brochures to all our congregation and really put the emphasis on encouraging our congregation not just to come to Alpha themselves, but to invite a friend to the first night. And we tried to lower the bar by saying to the congregation, look, just invite somebody for that first night. You don't have to stay for the whole course. Just kind of hold their hand and bring them to the first night. And that seemed to pay off this time round for us. A lot of people came on the first night, a sort of come-looky-see introductory evening.
And even if it doesn't this time, the next time around they'll have been asked a few months ago, and so they're at least have it in their system. They're thinking about this. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. And the whole asking thing is really key to get the congregation to do that. And you have to, of course, model it and give them time to do that, and teach them how to do that, and use examples in your message about the things you're doing with people. And it's nice if there's a couple people in your congregation who've come to faith because of something that the leader has actually been doing socially. Because then there's credibility in the stories. But I think the inviting thing is great. And a lot of Alpha practitioners depend upon the pastoral announcement on Sunday morning to fill the course, or on advertising. Now, please hear me, the advertising is really important, and so is the pastoral announcement, but you can't depend on them. You need to do those things, but if you're counting on those 2 things to fill your course, that's not going to help. Advertising is just going to get the name out there, and you might get a few people. But we ran into some people in Dallas who put out an advertisement in the value pack, and they hit an area and spent a lot of money putting an Alpha advertisement in the value pack, and not one person came to the course because of that. Now, somebody might someday, and there's been some seed sowing, but and that's all good. I'm glad they did it, but to depend on that is not a really good idea.
Well, thanks for your time, Dave. This has been a couple of months just trying to work out how to reach lost people for Christ. See ya.